Hey everybody, Spooky Marshmallow here. Welcome to the S'morecast. I am joined today by my co-host, Mary Massacre,
Yeah.
and Captain Eggbeard, of course. So today we are going to talk about two different topics. But first, we're going to talk about nightmares, and then we are going to get into fears and phobias. So, first off, let's talk about nightmares. I want to know, and Miri, we'll start with you. What is one nightmare that you've had that still scares you to this day and just sticks out in your mind still to this day?
So this is like a really big one for me. Especially as a kid, I used to have nightmares all the time. And so even as an adult, I still do a lot of the time. I feel like I have more nightmares than I do dreams. But this reoccurring nightmare that I've had that has stuck with me like for my entire life, like I've had it as a kid, and then even growing up into adulthood, I've had it several times, and it's the same reoccurring nightmare, where it's like picture like a nice beautiful area. There's a bunch of trees, it's like very open space, green grass, and there's just this one house, and it's gray and it's a rainy day, so like it looks like an early morning raining, and then it just flashes to this house. And so like I'm like kind of, I don't know if I'm like out of body, but it's just like I'm looking at this house, and then it flashes to being inside this house, and I'm watching, like I can hear noises first. Sorry, that's kind of confusing. When I get inside the house, um, there's like noises going on. Like it sounds like a scuffle, and then I can hear like a scream. And I start off, I'm not sure if it's like technically me starting off as myself or if I'm just like a character in this nightmare. But
Mm-hmm.
I look around this room because start hearing these noises, and it's an empty room except for one chair in the corner of the room, and then there's like a fireplace. And I leave the room to start walking down the stairs to where I can hear like these noises going on, and there's like this. It's kind of, I don't know, morbid is the right word. Very kind of creepy demon. It's like she looks like a. I can't really see her face. I can only see like long black hair. I know this sounds kind of typical of the like horror bad guy, but the long black hair and like just like a white, um it's not a t-shirt, it's like a white, because it's longer than a t-shirt. It's like a white gown, I guess. And I can see this demon attacking this other person, and it's very like gore, like things going on. And then once the demon's like done with that person, they try to start on me, and like I remember just like feeling everything so vividly, and like feeling like I was actually like trying to fight this demon off. And I know this is going to sound like super crazy, like people are probably going to think I'm insane, but I remember waking up as a kid. Like I would try to wake myself up, like in my nightmare I would be like I knew I was sleeping, and I'd be like, wake up, wake up, wake up, so this doesn't end, so you don't have to deal with the end of this and see this. And I ended up waking up out of my sleep, and there was at one point, like I looked down at my arm, and I know, everybody's gonna say I'm crazy, but I literally had like red marks, like in the shape of like fingerprints on my arm, and like that definitely scared me so bad.
Wow.
And it hasn't happened, like when I do have that nightmare now as an adult, like it hasn't happened as frequently as it used to. But I definitely, and I don't see like the marks or anything like that anymore. But I remember it used to just scare me so bad when I would have that nightmare, that I would literally be like, wake up, wake up, wake up, so that I didn't have to sit there and finish it out. So I've never completely finished out that nightmare because it's like so horrifying to me. I know like just talking about it, it doesn't sound as scary, but actually like feeling it and like how big the emotions were for me, like in this nightmare, it really affected me. So
Wow.
yeah, I think that's one of my worst ones that I've ever had, and that is reoccurring, which is weird but cool, I guess.
Wow. That's pretty intense. Like I don't think you're crazy at all. That's pretty messed up, especially to have when you're a kid. Um that would scare the hell out of me as a grown adult, let alone as a child. And the fact that it's reoccurring is messed up too. That's pretty intense.
Right.
All right, Eggbeard, it's your turn.
Okay, so my experience is somewhat similar. It's gone on since, like, ever since I can remember, like, in my single digit years. Um, so I've had night terrors with sleep paralysis, which is great because you can't wake up, you can't do anything.
Mm.
Um, so I don't. There's not like a specific creature or entity or whatever you want to call it. A lot of people claim that they see shadow people or whatever when they have sleep paralysis, but mine is just, it's basically like a black mass that just kind of hangs over me, and I can, I can mentally see from the outside, like, myself in the bed, this black mass hanging over me, and I can't move. And mentally, I'm conscious, but my body's still asleep, and I can't wake up. And as you can verify, I have finally trained myself where I can get enough control over my body to let out just any sound that will come out,
Mm-hmm.
and loud enough for her to be able to fully wake me up, because otherwise there's no way for me to get away from it. And that has, yeah, gone on since I was very young and still continues. So I don't know if there's a actual attachment or it's just a mental thing or what, but it's always the same.
He makes enough sound that, and it's the same sound every single time that he makes. It's like it's a whimper, and I know that he's having a nightmare, because he'll make that whimper, and I'm a light sleeper, so it wakes me up, and I wake him up, and I'm like, Will, you're having a nightmare.
And there
So
was the one time that it was only one time, but you woke me up and said that I was sitting straight up in bed speaking in some demonic language.
yeah, so I wake up because I hear him muttering, and I wake up and I roll over to wake him up, and he's staring at me. His eyes are fully open. He's staring at me, and he's speaking in a foreign language that I have never in my life heard before. I don't know if it kind of sounded like Latin, but I'm not sure. But he was just like in a trance, just speaking this language. And I sat there for a minute, number one, because of shock, and number two, because I wanted to see what was going on. Like, I was trying to process what was happening. And so then I finally, like, woke him up, and he didn't believe me. But I was like, yeah, I mean, that was pretty creepy. And it's never happened since, just one time. But I guess, for me, Miranda, I kind of have the same thing, but a little different. So throughout starting in my teenage years, and it could have happened when I was a child too, and I just don't recall, but starting in my teenage years is when I started to get real into the paranormal. Around the age of 16 is when I started having paranormal things happen to me, and I started to take a real interest in it. And so ever since then, I have these nightmares that I'm in a place, and every time is different. I've never been in the same place ever. But I go to these places, and I end up battling a demon at some point with a sword, with a bow and arrow, anything I can grab. I end up fighting off a demon. And like you, it feels extremely real to the point that when I wake up from these nightmares, and I've trained myself now to wake myself up, but when I wake up, I'm exhausted from it because I feel like I've actually been in a fight. I feel beat up, I feel exhausted, and just totally drained. And like both emotionally and physically just drained after these. But yeah, I always end up killing a demon. And one particular that sticks out into my head was, and this happened years ago. I was battling this demon, and it was going on and on and on and on, and it was back and forth, back and forth. And all of a sudden, this white light appeared in the room. And I mean, it was this piercing white light. And I was talking to someone, and I could not see the other person in the room. But I looked at that person and I said, "It's about time you got here. You need to take over because I can't keep doing this." And the person went into a room and shut the door with the demon. And then another white light flashed, and then the battle was done. I don't know who the person was. To me, I'm thinking that it was Jesus. Like, I just feel like the demons that I'm battling are a metaphor for things that I'm battling in my life that are stressing me. And it was my way of calling upon the Lord to help me get through it. Yeah, it's just, oh, I have, and they're very vivid. Like, I am in the moment. I feel its breath. I feel like I'm actually in the place that I'm having the nightmare at. And yeah, it's really intense. I don't feel any like physical, like if it hits me, I don't feel that or anything. But yeah, it's emotionally and mentally and physically draining once you wake up out of it. And I have suffered from paralysis just once in my life. I was asleep and I felt this big, heavy presence on my chest. And I opened my eyes and there was just this black mass hovering over me. And I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I was just frozen there with fear. And then I don't know how long it went on for. And then I finally was able to force myself to move. And when I did, it went away, and I just snapped out of it. But yeah, it's messed up. So I always think that nightmares are metaphors for something going on in our lives. Like, when we're high stressed or we have high anxiety, I believe that triggers nightmares. But maybe they have some other kind of spiritual meaning. Who knows at this point? Okay, so now let's move into fears and phobias. So, I have a fear of knives, of broken glass. I'm afraid of heights, dolls, spiders, and snakes, and clowns. I cannot do clowns. No, 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 no. Yeah, I sometimes, like, I've worked in retail for a big majority of my life, and sometimes, like, the mannequins would even creep me out. Like, when the stores would be dark before the stores opened, and we were putting out stock and stuff, like, seeing the mannequins in the dark sometimes would freak me out a little bit. So, Miri, what are your fears and phobias?
Okay, so I swear I've only told just my small circle of friends this, but let's just be honest. So again, going back to like childhood and things, and this is gonna sound, I know, really stupid. I'm legitimately afraid of the dark. Um,
What? No
I
way.
like, yeah, no, I hate sleeping alone. I hate like I've always had this fear. Like I feel like I feel things when it's dark, and my mind starts, running wild. And like another thing that I'm afraid of too is, like when I am sleeping at night and things like that, I have to have doors shut. Like the bedroom door has to be shut, or if the closet's open, I would prefer the closet door to be shut. Like it freaks me out.
Now
So
I'm with you on that. I have to be in a closed room. The closet doors have to be shut. Yeah, that's me too.
yeah, and it's I know everybody's like, how can you be afraid of the dark? And I'm like, I know, like it's embarrassing. Like I'm an adult, and like if there's ever a time where I am, by myself and I am having to sleep alone, I have to have some sort of light on, like a little night light or like a little string of light on. I
Hmm.
just can't. It freaks me out. And I do feel like a lot of that too stemmed from childhood. Like it isn't just something that like that's something that's always carried with me. I have always been afraid of that, and I also think that's another reason why I have so like many stuffed animals and things, because it's like comforting to me. I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you're crazy. I think a lot of adults are afraid of the dark. They just don't want to admit it because they don't want to get made fun of, but I feel like there's a lot of people out there that are afraid of the dark. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Right, I agree. I feel like I'm like I can't be the only person.
No. No, 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 no. No. Um all right, Captain, your turn.
So, yeah, like, kind of going along with that, like, it's that, uh, the entity, that black mass, like the unknown, I guess. Like, it affects me so much that I can feel it when I'm not sleeping. Um, so, yeah, definitely, like, sometimes it's happened even during the day, but definitely also at night. Like, I get this uneasy feeling, and I know what it is. Uh, and yeah, again, I've had this forever, and I can't figure out a way to stop it or not be uh, afraid of it or whatever. The only other thing really I'm afraid of is heights. It's, and it's not falling, it's the sudden stop at the end of a fall. That's the scary part. Uh, and one thing I used to be afraid of is hospitals. Not the actual like hospital itself, but just like the idea of the hospital setting and the sound of the monitors and all of that. And I kind of got over that after having a stay in the hospital. So yeah, I pretty much only have two things: that the black mass and the fear of heights.
But you're also afraid of the dark. Admit it. You
That
are.
is that black mass is why I'm afraid of the dark.
Yeah. So
Well,
see,
see, and I
see,
feel like that's super relatable. It's not the dark itself, I suppose. It's more so like what lurks in the dark is what
The unknown.
freaks me out. Right. Like it's like I don't know, like it's the seeing shapes, and then like the feelings that you get, the definitely the uneasiness that it kind of brings. So I definitely can understand that. It's kind of refreshing to have, people that can relate and do understand, because it's like sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe I'm just a weirdo, but
Like,
it's nice to have people that can understand.
I can block it out if I need to, but like if I give it, like, it's always there, like subliminally, right? So if I give it some actual attention, then it's over with. Like, it just spirals downhill from there.
Right.
It's kind of like the game. If you think about the game, you lost the game. So you don't. If you don't think about it, you don't say it, then you you win the game. But the trick is you brought the game up, so you lose. It's kind of the same thing. If you think about the entity, then it comes to the front of your mind.
See, and that also made me remember, this might be a little bit of a tangent, but speaking about like that mass and things like that, there was also this thing that I've seen a lot as a kid. I haven't into adulthood, but there used to be this figure. Like there was one time that I would see it in my dreams a lot. Well, like nightmares, I would see it. It kind of looked like a distorted, even worse, creepier version of Gollum from Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
And it had like this stringy hair that covered its face, and then like the creepy big eyes. And I remember one time, as a kid, being so scared because I was awake, and like I swear I thought I saw a flash of it next to me in the darkness. And I remember just like screaming and freaking out, and like my mom came into the room and she's like, "Are you okay? What's going on?" And I was like, I was like, "Its face. I just saw its face. I just saw its face." And I was just like having a meltdown because like I was awake at that time, and I could have swore like it felt like I saw it right there looking at me in the darkness, and I was like, oh god. So
That sounds like
it
a
gives me chills
goblin.
just talking about it.
It sounds like a goblin. Like you have a goblin attachment.
I don't know. I don't see that one at all anymore. Like I don't have any issues with that. But a lot as a kid, I remember seeing that face, and I think the last time that I had seen that, I was probably like 14, maybe 13. I was young, but I haven't seen that anymore. But I do remember talking about that black mass. Definitely made me remember that, because that it used to scare me so bad, and I just remember crying because I thought I had just seen it, and I was so scared.
What that reminds me of is kind of like the how I can best describe it is the remake of House on Haunted Hill from 1999. That,
Oh my gosh.
like, black mass of just evil.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty close to how I can describe it.
So you feel evil coming from it. And Mary, do you feel evil? Like, I mean, obviously because you're scared of it, but when you stop and think about it, are you scared of it because it's dark and black, or do you actually feel evil coming from it?
I don't think I necessarily it felt like it was evil. It was more so that it is this creature that looks, it's kind of terrifying, and it's in the dark, so it was scary. I feel like it was more so that, not necessarily that it was evil. It's just like it's this creepy looking figure, this creature, and in the darkness. So I think that just definitely added to that.
All right, yeah. Um so I'm gonna kind of mix something else in here too, kind of a surprise. I was thinking about it on this podcast. One more thing. So, man-made haunted houses. And this is a story. It's not like really a nightmare, but it's like it's a fear. It triggered this fear in me. So, and you're probably gonna think this is funny, but so I have always been terrified of the movie Hellraiser. of
I watched the new one last night.
we did too. We did too. We watched the new one. I'm gonna do a review of it, in fact, today. But I've always been terrified of Pinhead. So growing up and everything, like that was one, like my friends would want to watch it and I really would like leave the room sometimes, like pretending to go to the bathroom or like pretending to go get a snack or something because I was scared. And even through my adult life, like he terrified me. So one year I went to a haunted house with my cousin and my aunt. And this haunted house, it was so weird because we never heard of it before. It was out in the middle of nowhere. Like, we found it on accident, actually. And it was called Churchman's Chamber of Horrors. And so we go to this haunted house. There's no one else there. Like, we didn't even think it was open when we got to the gate. Until somebody came out and they're like, oh yeah, we're open. And, so anyway, it was this big spooky house, like, you know, your typical haunted house or whatever. And so we get inside and you've got a Freddy Krueger and he's following us around being annoying. And you've got someone dressed like Michael and, you know, your typical haunted house crap. And when I was younger, like, it took a lot to scare me when I was younger in the man-made haunted houses. Like, it just took a lot. Like, I thought they were cheesy and stupid and I really never was scared of them. So then we come to this black room, and it's a huge room, and we're trying to figure out, like, okay, what's going to happen? Like, we're waiting for something to happen because it's just black in there. There's nothing. And then all of a sudden, a spotlight comes on, and there's a freaking Pinhead sitting on a throne. And immediately, I'm like, started screaming. Like, it didn't even move. Like, it just was sitting there. And I started screaming my head off, and I squeezed my cousin's hand to where she was like, ow, ow. And then his eyes opened, and I was like, oh my god, I can't watch. So I immediately, like, turned my back to it, and my cousin was guiding me walking, and I just hear my cousin going, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And then I feel a tap on my shoulder, and I'm like, I can't turn around. And I remember saying that to her. I remember saying, I can't turn around. I can't turn around. Because I knew he was right behind me. And so finally, she was like, you have to turn around because I don't know where we're going and you need to see to walk. And so, and she was like, I got you, I got you. Well, by this time, my aunt had made it into the room. And my aunt came up on the other side of me. And I turned around, and this dude was very tall. And he was looking down at me. And I mean, we were face to face. He was so close to me, I could feel his breath. And then I passed out. The next thing I remember is being dragged through the haunted house with my aunt holding me up on one arm and my cousin on the other, and they're screaming. And then I start screaming because they're screaming. But, like, so the rest of that haunted house, it was very intense. Like, they would push us into closets and shut the doors and lock them. Yeah, I mean, this place was intense. And I remember by the time I got out of the haunted house and back into the van, and my mom was sitting in the van because my mom had a fear of haunted houses. She would not go in haunted houses. My mom was freaking out and she was like, oh my god, what is wrong with you? Like, what happened? And because I couldn't stop shaking, I couldn't talk. I was full blown panic attack. And, it took a long time to calm myself down from that experience. And that was the last time I ever went into a haunted house. I will not go back into one because it's kind of like PTSD with that. Like, it triggers that happening to me and all that fear and trauma that I went through with that. And I'm just like, nope, I can't do it. And yeah, so that ended that. But I will say that I have seen all of the Hellraiser movies. I've gotten through all of them. And then I did see the new one last night, like we said. And it did not scare me, not one little bit. So, but I think it's because it was a different Pinhead, like, it wasn't him. So, and I think, like, in my mind, I knew that. So, I don't know. It was just, she didn't scare me, not one bit. Like, I was just like, whatever. I was not terrified like I usually am with those movies.
Right. It's funny that you say that about the Pinhead and like that experience. That's crazy because I again, sorry, little tangent, but like I absolutely adore, like Michael Myers is my favorite. Like I love Halloween. I love all the Halloween movies.
Hell yeah.
But when I was like 6 or 7, I remember watching it and I remember having like a nightmare of Michael. But after that, like I didn't even care if I had a nightmare about it. Like I was obsessed with Halloween. But I remember having a nightmare one night so bad that scared me because I had a dream that Michael was coming after me and I was like, oh no. But ever since then, no, I've literally adored that whole franchise.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely, definitely. To me, Freddy never scared me. Freddy made me laugh. I was never scared of Freddy at all. But yeah, and Michael, I was never afraid of Michael either. Like, I always thought he was creepy, and the movies would scare me, but like I would never have nightmares or anything like that about it. But yeah, Pinhead was a whole different level for me. Like, that just woof. What about you, Captain? Does any of that ever faze you?
Not really. I loved Halloween since I first saw it and never had any problem with it. Like, I think I think Michael's scary for like the how he's kind of quiet. It's the jump factor or the fact that someone's could be standing there watching you and you're not scared until you look over and you see this person there. But I like just the idea of Michael Myers or whatever to me is not scary because I just love that character. I think the idea of Freddy, the concept of Freddy would be scary, but it never actually scared me. But yeah, the idea of something coming to get you in your dreams and it actually affecting your physical body is pretty scary. Any other like characters that scare me? No. One of the first horror movies I saw was the original Friday the 13th, and I was it was pretty freaky back then, but after I kind of started watching more horror movies, that kind of faded too. So I can't really say that there's any characters that really get to me.
Jason just gets on my nerves. Like, like he just, I don't know. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I don't know. He just, like, he feels like this annoying thing to me. Like, I would not be scared of him. I would be more annoyed by him. Like, I don't know why. He just gets on my nerves. Like, he just needs to go away. He's annoying.
I feel like that's how a lot of people feel about Michael these days because they're like, why won't he just die?
Yeah. Why is he not dead already? But maybe on the new one, this is it because it's Halloween ends. So
October 14th, I'm so excited.
So this might be the end. Yep. Yeah, I cannot wait. I did a review on Halloween Kills, but I was a little disappointed by Halloween Kills. But Halloween End, I think, is going to be totally, exciting and kind of sad because it's ending the franchise. So it's kind of sad to me.
Right.
You know,
It's definitely bittersweet.
exactly, yeah. It's bittersweet. So I don't know, I can't wait. Yeah, I'm super hyped up about it. Definitely. So, but yeah, we did a Hellraiser watch party with friends last night. That was fun. And I don't want to talk too much about the podcast because I will be doing a review on it. But I thought it was okay. It was okay. It I don't know that it was drug out a lot for me compared to some of the other movies. I feel. But anyway, so it didn't mess with me at all. Like I was not scared like one time. And usually by the time he has made his first appearance, I'm like, oh god, oh god, oh god. Like I'm just freaking out, but really not. This one I didn't at all. So, yeah, it's. I do want to talk about one other thing. I have this fear of clowns, but one of the very first horror movies I ever watched, and it's because my cousin tricked me into watching it, was Killer Clowns from Outer Space. But that movie is so funny. Like, I laughed through that movie, even though I have this fear of clowns. Like, those clowns did not scare me at all. Like, they were funny to me. And I remember like laughing through the movie, and my cousin she was trying to scare me on purpose, and she was like, I am so mad because you weren't even scared like one time. I'm like, no, these were funny, like they didn't freak me out. I don't know, it's just, yeah, I get nervous around clowns.
There's a Killer Clowns game coming out.
Yes, I know, and I cannot wait. I am super excited because we will be getting that game. It's a cult classic, and it has become one of my favorites. I need to get the DVD for it. Actually, that's one I don't have the DVD for, and I can't believe I don't have it. But
Well, then I definitely need to ask. Then does that mean that you have an aversion to it? Is that scary?
I can't do it. I can't. Okay. Nope. I can't do it.
I was gonna ask. I wondered.
Yeah. We tried to watch it. Like I saw the original. And I had nightmares. Like it really scared the shit out of me. And then the latest one, oh my, it really messed with me to the point I couldn't even watch the rest of it.
We got through it
wild. It's so good though.
Yeah, it scared the shit out of me. Yeah, I cannot stand it. And crap, I just forgot. There was something else I was gonna mention too that freaked me out.
Terrifying.
And I can't remember what it was. Crap, what was it? It was like right there on the tip of my tongue, and now I've lost it. But yeah, no, I can't do it.
That really freaked me out. Sorry, I know I'm going off a little here, but speaking about all the cool movies and stuff and things like that, Sinister, when that first came out, I was very pregnant, right? And so we went to go see Sinister, and I don't know if you've ever seen it, so I don't want to like spoil the movie, but it definitely.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I'll just say that it has kids in it, okay, and like they're like controlled by this evil spirit, right? So I remember leaving the theater so scared because I was like, what if this child comes out and it's gonna Dracula?
Oh my god.
Freaking out. I was like, I'm scared. I was shook. Like, what's gonna happen?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was funny, but to this day, I love those movies. I feel like it's very hard anymore to find like a good scary movie that genuinely scares me, and that was definitely really creepy.
Well, I feel like they aren't making horror movies anymore. They're just remaking old shit. Like there's no new concept of fear. There's nothing like that anymore. And I will say when Saw came out, I couldn't watch a lot of Saw mostly because of the sounds. Like the bones breaking and the squishy, Saw scared the shit out of me. When I saw the very first one, I remember leaving the theater and I was scared shitless because it was so real. Like that could happen in real life. And I remember, and now that they have like, what, we're going on 10 now, I think, like it's nothing now. Like it doesn't scare me anymore. It's becoming annoying at this point. But Yeah, the same for the Blair Witch Project. When that movie came out, oh my god, it scared the shit out of me because I'll admit it, I was one of the believers that thought it was actually a true story.
Mm-hmm.
And so I used to love to camp and all of that, and it terrified me. Oh my god. I remember we saw it in the theater, and I came home, and it was really late at night, and my parents were out at a friend's house. And I remember calling my mom, and I was like, "When are you coming home?" And I'm an adult, mind you. And I'm like, "When are you coming home?" And she's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I'm scared. I'm by myself." I'm by myself in this big house and I'm scared. I just watched a scary movie and I don't want to be by myself. She laughed her ass off at me. But I went through the house and turned like every single light on. I made sure all the windows were locked and the doors were locked, and I like barricaded myself in my bedroom. Yeah, I was one of the the suckers that actually thought that movie was real.
One of my friends actually has a legitimate fear of Saw. Like one of my best friends in the world, um, is deathly afraid of like Jigsaw. Will not have any of it, and I'm just not a fan of the Saw movies in general. I guess the noises is definitely valid. I don't like that, but I'm not a huge fan of like gore either. I'm more into like I love the supernatural thrillers, or like I mean I know like Michael is a slasher and he's my favorite, but like I feel like the older movies weren't as like the older Michael movies, I should say, aren't as like super bloody and things like that. So I'm just
Right.
not into like that gore factor. And I feel like with
Yeah.
Saw, it's just very, very hyped up, and I can't do it. It just makes me queasy.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. Yeah. They in today's horror films, they go overboard on the gore and there's no need for it. There's no the classics are all like the old school movies. That's what makes them so good because they're not over the top like they are today. Today it's just they're stupid today. There's no horror involved. It's just they try too hard. Um
It's shock value.
yeah, yeah.
I think the Saw series is very scary in the sense that it could be realistic, but a lot of the a lot of the actual horror movies I would find scary these days go along that lines, like movies about where it's not a iconic killer, it's just regular people possibly wearing some generic masks, and it's like a home invasion type thing. Those
Like strangers.
Yes, those
Yes.
movies scare the shit out of me. Like
Mm-hmm.
in the same way, Saw could be a real thing. Like somebody could be, researching people's personal history. You find someone that you don't agree with what they did in their life or their way of life, whatever. You snatch them up, bring them to a warehouse, put them in basically a losing situation where they have a small chance to overcome, what they did in life, or they die. That's it's a little far fetched, but it could happen.
Yeah. Yep.
And I feel like that what goes along too the lines with like the Purge movies. Like I loved the few Purge movies that
Oh
I
yeah,
have seen. I feel like that has
yeah.
that factor. Like this could possibly happen. Not that it would, but the fact that it is, that it could happen. Just creepy.
And
Yeah.
Hostel.
Yeah,
Hostel's
Hostel.
another good example.
Yeah. Um Crap, I forgot what I was gonna say again. Gosh darn it. Why does that keep happening to me today? Um Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's totally left my head. I do have to say, like, I really appreciate the more older horror films. It seems like once we hit the 90s and after, like, Scream came out, and because Scream was kind of scary too, because that's another one that could really happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like but Scream, like Ghostface didn't scare me at all. Like I wasn't scared in that movie. I was just like, to me that was like very suspenseful. It was like on edge.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't like, I mean, I like some movies that have jump scares, but I don't like a lot of the horror films that like focus all on jump scares. That annoys me. And I feel like that is what Hollywood tries to do today. Like they throw in a jump scare every couple minutes. I swear to God. Like and it's annoying.
I do agree with that. I feel like they definitely do focus on that. I think one of my favorite, if we're like talking newer horror movies, one of my favorite series, which is funny because it's literally my daughter's favorite movie. She loves it. Insidious. We really love the Insidious series, and there are some jump scares, but I feel like with Insidious it wasn't overdone. I
Yeah.
feel like they did it well enough that it wasn't annoying. It wasn't that every 2 seconds like scary, but they did have some in there, but it was balanced. I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree to that. Yeah. Yeah. Another movie that terrifies me and I still cannot watch to this day is The Ring.
Oh,
I can't watch it. Like we went to the theater and saw it when it first came out, and I was fine through the whole thing until the bitch started coming up out of the well, and I was like, nope, nope, nope. And like I remember, I handed my popcorn to the person I was with, and I turned my head and I was looking down, like I was looking everywhere but at the screen. And of course, the people that I was with were laughing their asses off, and they were like, "You really are scared?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Yep. I said, nope, I can't do that, bitch. I can't. Like, and if it wasn't for the fact that they were my ride, I would have walked out of that movie theater. But yeah, I can't do it. Even to this day. To this day, I cannot watch The Ring. I can't do it. Another one that scared the shit out of me is The Exorcist. And I
oh,
remember for its but I'll watch it. Like if that makes sense. Like it scares me, but I still watch it. But I remember to celebrate its anniversary, and I don't know if it was like its 25th or something like that. I went to the theater and they put in scenes that had been cut from the original film. And I remember I went going into the theater, and I remember I was sitting there watching it, and I was fine. But there's one scene that really disturbed me, and it's the crucifix scene. And I got up and walked out. I was like, nope, I'm done. I couldn't watch. It disgusted me, and at the same time, it just, I don't know, like it just really struck a chord with me, and I couldn't watch the rest of it. Like I was done at that point. And I remember I sat outside because the rest of the group I was with wanted to see it, and I remember I sat outside for like however long, like probably an hour, over an hour, I'm sure, and I refused to go back in and watch that movie because I was just, yeah, it disturbed me so bad. And but to this day it doesn't, because I know that it happened. It was just at the time it took me off guard, and I just had an issue with it. But to this day I can watch that scene and it doesn't bother me anymore. But another similar circumstance was Rob Zombie's Halloween. There's a scene in the insane asylum where a woman who is mentally handicapped gets raped, and I felt that crossed the line with, like, I lost a lot of respect for Zombie for putting that in there. That was not necessary, and it should not have been put into the film. There was not a need for that to be put into the film. It didn't serve any purpose to the story or nothing. It was just something he put in, and I felt that was very distasteful and disgusting. And to this day, I won't watch it ever again because it just, I feel like he crossed a line on that, and nobody called him out for it. And I think that's wrong. I think he should be made to take that out of the movie. because it's not
Because
necessary.
that is something that happens in those facilities, and they paid for it. That was kind of went along with the idea that people engaging in sexual activity when they're not supposed to gets punished. It's happened in Friday the 13th, countless other God knows horror movies, and that was, to me, it is something that does happen, probably not as frequently anymore in modern times, but it's something that did happen in those facilities, and they were doing something they weren't supposed to do, and the killer got them.
Well,
That's my take on it.
I just feel like, I just feel like it was unnecessary.
I'm gonna have a hot take in an unpopular opinion, and I'm sure I'm gonna get canceled, but I'm just gonna say it. I'm not a fan of the Rob Zombie Halloween remakes.
That's a lot of people.
Oh, I'm with you on that. It's horrible. They're horrible. I've lost a lot of respect for Zombie. Like, I get, like, he's just having fun or whatever. I get that, but don't take a. Same with the Munsters. Like, don't take an icon show and shit it up. And I think that's what he's done. Like, with Halloween, with the Munsters, like, he ruined it. In my opinion. Yeah, I do like a lot of zombie films, but I'm with you on that. I do not like his Halloween remakes, and I do not like the Munsters at all. They're awful. Awful. He needs to just stick to House of a Thousand Corpses franchise and be done.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. His latest movies were not the best. I liked the first Halloween, but not the second. But yeah.
Okay, I think I had a little glitch.
All right. Is there anything else that either of you would like to add before we wrap up today's session?
Well, I think that's it.
All right. That's going to do it for today's podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in or watching if you're watching this on YouTube. I think this is going to be it for the month. I know I had kept saying I wanted to do one every week for the month of October, but October is an extremely busy month for everybody. And so I'm just unable to do it every single week. So I think this one tied in a bunch of different topics all into one. So that's going to do it for the month of October as far as podcasts go. But stay tuned for November's podcast. That will be coming out in November. Probably about the first week of November, I would say. So, all right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. Thank you so much once again. Please like and subscribe. And I want to say thank you to my co-host, Miri Massacre, and Captain Eggbeard. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah.
And
Thanks,
yeah, and stay tuned for the next one. This is Spooky Marshmallow saying, remember, stay spooky, my friends.